Our Flag Means Death is very good and you should watch it. There are many reasons why it's such an outstanding show that I could talk about. The comedic yet heartfelt wit of its writing, the acting of the cast, its costume design, its set design, the historic elements it pulls from, the LGBT representation. And I'm not alone here. The series has become both critically and commercially successful, outperforming Marvel's current series Moon Knight at the time of writing this. With Moon Knight episodes still airing whilst Our Flag Means Death has finished releasing its episodes. And yet, HBO isn't announcing a Season 2 of Our Flag Means Death despite its success, despite fans asking and asking for renewal. So, getting into the spirit of the show, I have gathered a crew of creators, and together we are collaborating on a project called One Swashbuckling Scene. Inspired by YouTube channel Nando V Movies' past collabs, this is part of a multiple video project where each creator takes a scene from Our Flag Means Death and talks about why it's fantastic. The rest of the videos will be gathered in a playlist for ease of viewing.
Fab!
So what's the premise? Our Flag Means Death is a romantic comedy about pirates. It centers around the historic figure of Stede Bonnet, also known as the Gentleman Pirate. Stede has left his wife and children to sail on a ship with a crew he's gathered, and together they travel in the hopes of Captain Stede Bonnet becoming a successful pirate.
The rumor is you upended your entire comfortable life to become a pirate.
Gosh, is it meant to be this shaky?
And things do not go as planned. If any of this interests you, please stop the video and watch the series first. It's on HBO. But if you need more, I will now talk about the one scene that this video is for. Spoilers ahead. In episode 10, the final episode of season 1, Stede once again leaves his estate, his wife, and his children, takes a rowboat, pulls it into the sea, and sets off to find his crew. This is the one scene I want to talk about, but now we have to rewind to see how we got here. First off, why does Stede decide to become a pirate? Because it's not out of necessity. Stede doesn't understand that people become pirates because they need the money, not necessarily because they like the job. We see this as early as episode 1.
Look, Captain, you know, pirating is not for everyone.
Oh, no.
It's a really dangerous lifestyle.
Yeah, some of us thrive on danger, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look, me and Jim, we don't do this because we like it. We do it because we don't have any other choice.
Oh, I hear that.
Do you work, Mr. Worcester?
Well, I've known a few people who worked. Absolutely swear by it, some of them.
But
Stede treats piracy like it's a calling, a vocation. So the question that the characters ask with looks of confusion and disbelief is also posed to the audience. Why does Stede want to become a pirate? If it's not to gain wealth, why is Stede doing this? Why would Stede decide to give up wealth to become a pirate, when arguably the reason why many of his crewmates became pirates was to gain wealth? And I think the answer is, Stede wasn't in it for the wealth, but something else. There's a line at the end of episode 1 where Stede thinks about his family at home, and then of his crew, and says the following.
Family's here now. At sea.
Found family refers to a group of people who find themselves united in a family bond based on shared experiences, mutual understanding, and interpersonal connection. As early as the first episode, Stede has chosen this crew as his new family, but there's an uncertainty in his voice. And that's possibly because both Stede and the audience know that this same crew just discussed the thought of committing mutiny. That doesn't sound at all like mutual understanding or connection. But by the last episode, a lot happens between Stede and his crew. Do they fit a definition of found family by that point? Let's explore that. Even though he chose to leave his wife and children, Stede is surrounded by parent motifs throughout the series. Episode 1, Stede gives his crew the task of designing a flag like a kindergarten teacher giving an arts and crafts lesson. Even Oluwande, who I consider the sensible and mature one in the group, gets into it.
What is it?
It's like a flag extender, so it
Right.
flaps.
A little blow in the wind.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Also, I like how this scene is in episode 1 and then mirrored in the last episode where Stede is shown sewing with his children. Then in episode 8, Stede's talk to the crew about why co-captain Blackbeard is leaving the ship is written like a parent trying to give a divorce talk.
And on a related note, Blackbeard will no longer be sailing with us. What? It's a big one, I know. It was a mutual decision. Look, these things happen. Sometimes sea captains drift apart. I know it's tough, but chin up. Okay? Neither of us will like you less or more than we did before.
Stede clearly puts a lot of care into his crew. He clearly has parenting abilities, so why couldn't he be a father to his children? Well, the circumstances of Stede getting married to his wife Mary were not ideal, which I'll get into more later. But in flashbacks of Stede's previous life, we get to see that there was a growing rift between them, caused by a lack of support or empathy in their interests and ambitions. And this was mutual between them. Mary doesn't understand Stede's interest in sailing, and Stede doesn't understand Mary's interest in painting. Stede receives a painting from Mary as a gift and rather insultingly thinks their kids painted it. When Stede meets Mary again after her painting career has bloomed, he reacts in surprise, like he didn't know that that would be something she'd be interested in pursuing. So what happens when you take Stede, pluck him out of his old life where he's unhappy and unable to pursue his wish to go sailing, and plonk him on a pirate ship? Well, now he's surrounded by a group of people who share a common interest with him, who, if not passionate about sailing, are likely knowledgeable and or experienced with it. And how does he fare with them? He's supportive. Stede prides himself on friendly management skills.
Why do you all show such loyalty to this nothing?
I'd attribute quite a lot of it to a people-positive management style.
He's shown to be aware that pirate captains are known to rule with aggression, but Stede chooses not to model himself after that. Stede gives a wage to his crew that's paid whether they're successful in raids or not, instead of the more traditional method of sharing the plunder or failing to and getting no treasure. And in turn, with Stede being allowed to run things in a way that's comfortable with him, he tries to let his crew be themselves. There's never a scene where Stede makes the crew dress differently because he's embarrassed in the way they conduct themselves. He never tries to bring high-class society and force it upon his crewmates against their wishes. The only time Stede has them dress differently is as a form of disguise to fool the Royal Navy and at a party they infiltrate. Stede only teaches Ed etiquette because Ed directly asked him to. Stede doesn't want to make the crew something they're not. He wants to enrich their lives and give them support.
If I can help this crew grow as people, then I've succeeded in being a pirate captain.
Stede gives them access to his library on the ship. When he finds out they can't read, he offers to read them bedtime stories. Stede also pays particular attention to mental health on the ship, trying to make it clear that everyone should be allowed to communicate their feelings and emotions openly.
If someone returns from the raid mentally devastated, we talk it through as a crew.
There's an episode where he gives his crew a vacation, which he has to explain because some of the members don't know what a vacation is.
The point is to rest our bodies as well as our minds.
And again, this is not Stede bringing mental health ideals from high-class society to the seas. The most explicit time we see therapy being used by a character other than Stede is an island elder who helps Stede understand the guilt he's feeling. This support Stede gives ends up being returned by the crew. The crewmates start off in their introductory scene with talk about mutiny and killing Stede, but by episode 9 they are afraid of Stede getting executed by a firing squad and take personal risks to try and prevent it. They've come from wanting to kill him to caring about him. So things are going well. Stede's found a crew, he's now part of a family, he's found love, things are looking up. And then Stede has a crisis and tries to return home to Mary and his kids. He thinks this is the right decision at first, but then he realizes returning to his wife and children doesn't make him or really anyone happy. It's just what is expected of him. Stede was in an arranged marriage. He wanted to marry for love, but his father tells him,
"Peasants marry for love."
Which would have Stede equate being a peasant, or in a pirate's case, an outlaw, to having freedom and agency. And after he confides in Mary that he's fallen in love with someone else, they come up with a plan to have Stede be able to leave her life for good this time. In the end, Stede decides to return to the sea, because he realizes that that is where his love and family is. In Our Flag Means Death, being a pirate becomes a romanticized symbol of removing yourself from constricting expectations of what society or outside forces want you to be. Being a pirate and joining a crew is about finding your tribe. And by finding your tribe, I mean it's about found family. The people you come across in life who have got your back. It's the end of Season 1. Stede has been stripped of everything at this point. He's given up his fortune to his wife, he's faked his death publicly, And while he doesn't know it yet, his ship has been stripped of his material belongings. His usually expensive attire has been replaced with a white shirt, billowing in the wind as he pulls his boat into the ocean of the setting sun, like he's the second coming of Errol Flynn. And as he did so, I didn't just feel happy for him, I felt proud of him. This is why this one scene is so good. It summarizes Stede's journey of fully understanding what it means to be a pirate to him. Because although he's lost everything at this point, he knows what he needs to do next. Find his found family. If he has one thing left, it's clarity. So despite things looking quite grim, Season 1 ends on a hopeful note. The majority of Stede's crew have been left stranded on a tiny island, but just as you wonder how on earth they're going to get out of this one, Oluwande spots someone through his spyglass. And in that final closing shot as the music swells, Stede raises his hand with newfound confidence. He's found his family in every sense of the phrase. Thank you for watching. I'd like to give a thank you to my patrons on Patreon. This has been One Swashbuckling Scene. Please check out the rest of this video series through the playlist link.